Wait, so how does it work then? Because we're on Zoom, but it's streamed on YouTube. How does that work?
Yeah, they can hear you.
Oh, that's all right. Cool. That's kind of good. I'm gonna be audio on my phone, but laptop sharing screen.
Okay, bet we're live right now. Yo, what's up, everybody? Appreciate you guys for being on today's call. I want to let y'all know if you guys want to share today's session, definitely reach out to anybody since we're live on YouTube and let them know that we're live and we're active. If you're a part of our community in Powerhouse, reach out. If you're not, we'll welcome in, and I'm very excited for the first crypto and asset session live on YouTube. We will get started in the next couple of minutes. Give it 2 minutes. Definitely reach out. This session is going to be really good. And we're also going to be having a live Q&A. So feel free to have your questions ready. And if you already have questions about crypto, stocks, assets, and now, since we have a small delay, so that when we get to the Q&A, we can answer every single one of y'all's questions.
Got some tones in the chat if you can see me and you can hear me. We are live on YouTube, which is cool. This is something different, and I'm just getting the and sorted. So let me try and go to this YouTube thing now. But yeah, put tons in the chat if you guys can see me and you can hear me, because it would be amazing if I can see all of your comments and feedback and questions from the group chat. So let me see. Yeah, put tens in the chat if you guys can see me and hear me. And Gil, feel free to give me a
text or a message just to make sure everything's working nicely. Yeah, let's see what's going on. Okay, so I cannot see you, but you can hear me clearly. Okay, great. So let's see, because my camera is on my laptop. So that is quite interesting. Let's see something in. Okay. We are getting there. You can see me? Put tens in the chat if you guys can see me. It's just the first time using this tech. Tens in the chat if you can see me. Amazing.
Amazing, good stuff. So we are going to go ahead and get this session started. Brilliant, thank you, Vanessa. This is crypto and assets. So this is very, very exciting. Every Saturday at 1 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. UK, 11 a.m. PST, 2 p.m. PST. We dive into the fundamentals and the technicals.
Recording in progress.
We dive into the fundamentals and technicals of the markets, of crypto, but also of assets in general, which is stocks, which could be commodities, which could be any of those spectrum of asset classes. And so our goal on these crypto and assets calls is to educate and equip you guys with the information so that you can be self-sufficient traders and investors. And when I say self-sufficient, I don't just mean independent, having no counsel, having no mentorship, having no community. What I mean is independent, meaning you have the confidence to take your own trades. You have the confidence to make an investment and to know when you're getting out of the investment, what price level you're looking to go back in, when are you going to DCA and dollar cost average into that investment. That's what I mean by self-sufficient. And so the structure of these calls is we start off with the fundamentals. We start off with the news that's come up in the past week. And that's what I'm going to dive into. And then Gil, halfway through, is going to come on and do some technical work in terms of on the charts, but also he's going to give us 2 cents with other news articles in the market. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And we're going to see if this has been good. I've just sent a request to you, Gil, to share my screen. So I'm going to go ahead now and try that. Brilliant. And so put a 5 in the chat if you guys can see my screen. Put a 5 in the chat if you can see my screen. So YouTube. Put a 5 in the chat if you guys can see my screen right now.
Yeah, you're good, bro. Just keep in mind there's a small delay, so you're good though on my side.
Brilliant, good stuff. So, okay. So let's go ahead and get things kicked off. Now, there's a few news articles to touch on. Firstly, we're going to speak on Morgan Stanley. Morgan Stanley, one of the largest investment banks out there in the globe, they have filed for a Bitcoin ETF. Now, an ETF, for those of you who don't know, is an exchange-traded fund. All that means is that it's a basket of different companies or different cryptos, whatever is within it. And you can actually invest in that ETF, in that fund, and that fund, basically, you get a share of all of the various companies or underlying assets that they own. And so ETF, investing in that is a good way to diversify your portfolio, but also a good way to reduce risk, to have less market exposure because of the variety of companies or assets that they're invested in. Sometimes there is a minimum investment for an ETF, depending on the bank that you're working with. There's ETFs out there that you need to have $50,000 investment in order to even be a part of the ETF. But there's other ETFs that are like, yeah, any amount you can be involved in this product. So why is this a big deal? We heard in 2024 about many ETFs being released. We heard about the Vanguard ETF. We heard about the VanEck ETF. We heard about the Grayscale ETF. I think that came out in 2023. We heard about Ethereum, Solana, and Bitcoin ETFs. This is a big deal for one main reason, family. Because Morgan Stanley is actually the first US bank to file for a Bitcoin Solana ETF that is not distributing it through a third party. What do I mean by that? Here's the thing. All of the ETFs that came out in 2024 from a bank, they didn't come out directly from the bank. They came out of the bank working with another party to release the ETF. So the bank just advised people to invest in the ETF. Morgan Stanley are saying, no, we are actually independently, directly creating our own ETF. that our clients can invest in. Do you see the difference? So this is why this is a big deal. And I'm going to show you here because of this. So banks such as JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, they are offering, advising people to invest in crypto ETFs, but that's through an external party. That's through an intermediary that is actually releasing the ETF. But Morgan Stanley are doing it themselves. That's why they're the first major US bank to directly have their own ETF. This is a massive, massive deal, guys. And so I wanted to bring that up because it just shows you the increased level of adoption in the market right now. Now, the next thing is this. For those of you who have been on these calls for a while, about 1 to 2 months ago, I spoke about Bank of America advising their wealth clients to invest in crypto. And that conversation 2 months ago is now a reality. This is officially launched. Bank of America, their wealth department, are actually advising 1 to 4% of your investment portfolio to go into crypto. So they're not talking about it like, oh no, it's it's too risky. Don't get involved. Wealthy people, this is just like a high volatility play. No, they're saying like you should have exposure, and we're actually recommending it. So as you can see here, a suggested investment range of 1 to 4% in a client's total portfolio. Now, here's the difference. This is how they used to treat crypto. It was on a request-only category. That means that their actual employees, their actual wealth management advisors, they could only talk about digital assets if the client brought the conversation to them. But guess what? Now it's changed. Now they are actually allowed to start the conversation off saying, this is what we recommend you invest in. Now, if you're surprised that they're only recommending 1 to 4%, and put a 5 in the chat if you're like, no, I understand that. That makes sense. That's exactly what I expected. So put a 10 if you're surprised that they're only recommending. That's such a small amount. Or put a 5 in the chat if you're like, that makes sense. I would have guessed then to only suggest such a small amount. And, depending on what you put in the chat, your perspective is okay, because to tell you the truth, I was a little surprised that they said up to 4%, because that's quite a large amount of money. I mean, think about it, guys. In order to be a wealth client at JP Morgan Chase, at Morgan Stanley, at Charles Schwab, or whatever these places are, there's different parameters, but usually it's something like 7-figure net worth, or it's something like a multiple six-figure portfolio. And that's how you move from like the standard banking to like the private client banking, like the private side of the bank. And so if they have $10 million in their banking institution, 4% of 10 million, guys, that's $400,000. So 4% doesn't seem like a lot of money, because that's because you're thinking about $10,000 that you might have in savings. So it's only $400. But for them, that's $400,000, guys. So just think about the perspective shift there. That's really good to know. And this is all positive news for crypto. This is all bullish news. Let's move on to the number 3, Solana Mobile SKR token drop. So some of you may know I got the Solana Seeker phone. If you're in Texas at trade night, me and Carlos has like the Solana Game Boy thing, like this cool, it looks like a Nintendo DS device. So reminded me of like Nintendo back in the day. Don't ask me why I was playing Nintendo. It's a bit of a feminine game, but that's the kind of device it reminded me of. And guys, like these Solana products are so cool because you can earn crypto from playing games. You can actually get airdrops. What is an airdrop? For those of you who don't know, it's simply when you have stake in a project, when you have an investment in a project, the project can reward you periodically with free crypto tokens that you can then use for other things, or you can simply redeem, right? And so this Solana Seeker phone, if you own it, you can actually get the upcoming airdrop. And what's cool about this is that the SKR token, which is Solana's token for these devices, they're actually releasing 30% of their supply is going to be distributed in airdrops. Basically free money. So let me give you guys an example. I have the Solana Seeker phone, but I have a later version of it. Long story short, guys, the first version of that phone, it costed about like $500 to get the phone. In a year's time, they've already got $500 worth in free airdrops already. So after a year's investment, they've just paid back the value of their phone. That's crazy, right? So talk about ROI, or talk about good investment for your money. You basically got a free phone after 365 days. Now, one of the things I want to mention about this phone, two things, is that you get something called a Genesis token. So every Solana device has a unique token, it's called Genesis, and it's non-transferable. It's like an NFT that I can't send it to somebody. It's a unique ID to that specific device. That is what allows you to reap the rewards of these airdrops and things of that nature. The second thing I wanted to touch on is this seed vault. So some of you are more intermediate in crypto. So let's just think about this. We know what a hardware wallet is, a ledger, a Trezor, a physical device, right? That is cold storage, not connected to the internet, that you can hold crypto and keep it long term, and it's the safest way to deal with crypto. And we also know about software wallets, which are things that typically connected to the internet, like hot wallets, like MetaMask and things like that. But this seed vault. So imagine this was the Solana phone. My 24-word passcode, which is what you would have for a ledger or Trezor, a written down 24-hour passcode, to a recovery phrase, right? If you lose your crypto, you type in a recovery phrase, you get all your money back on the laptop or whatever. It's simply a fingerprint. That is my 24-word password to access my crypto funds. I have my phone, I tap it, and the seed vault, that's what it's called, the seed vault wallet, recognizes my fingerprint, and that's how I get access to all of my crypto transactions. So that's another thing which makes this unique, which is something that I wanted to mention. But put a 5 in the chat if you think that's pretty cool, right? I think it's quite a cool way to go about it. Like, somebody can steal your phone, they're not going to get your crypto, right? They don't have your fingerprint, so how are they going to get it? Moving on. Rumble launches their crypto wallet, and they partnered with Tesla and MoonPay. Now, Rumble, some of you may know what Rumble is. Rumble is basically a free speech platform with a great CEO who truly believes in non-censorship, right? YouTube has dominated the media space for years now. Like, YouTube has dominated the media space for probably 1 to 2 decades now, 1.5 decades or so. However, Rumble came out because YouTube always censor their top subscribers, right? Like, they can't say certain things. But on Rumble, you can say basically whatever you like. And so their rival, they actually have their own crypto wallet. And their crypto wallet works with 3 main cryptos. They work with USDT, which is Tether. They work with XAUT. How do you pronounce it? Yeah, XAUT, which is Tether Gold. And they also work with Bitcoin. And this is cool because their wallet, it only supports 3 tokens, as I mentioned, but it's non-custodial. It's non-custodial. What does that mean? Okay, so there's 2 forms of wallets: a custodial crypto wallet and a non-custodial crypto wallet. Now, a custodial crypto wallet, let me just check something real quickly, because this is very important. Give me 1 second. I just want to double check something. Okay, cool. Let me go ahead and screen share again. So a non-custodial crypto wallet is simply a wallet where you control the private keys. Remember earlier I mentioned about having, the fingerprint to your C phrase and having a ledger and a Trezor.
Hey, bro, we can't see your screen, by the way.
Okay, no problem. No problem. I'm gonna reshare. So a non-custodial wallet is where you have control of your private keys. Now, what is this? This is simply something like a Trezor, a Exodus, which is a decentralized exchange wallet. And so you have full ownership of your crypto tokens, which is good. But a custodial crypto wallet is something like Coinbase, is something like Kraken, is something like Binance. This is where the exchange actually controls your private keys. That means that they have access to see and view your crypto. So the main purpose of crypto in general really is privacy. You don't have that when you have things in a custodial wallet. However, as I go to share my screen again, is with Rumble's wallet, it's non-custodial, so you own it. And that's something that's not too common. So remember, when you're looking to invest in the crypto space, guys, what you're looking for is a non-custodial wallet. You're looking for a hardware wallet, which is a physical device. And you're also looking for something that's cold storage, something that's not connected to the internet. Those are like the three key terms that I want you to consider when it comes to getting started in crypto, or when you have a growing portfolio and security becomes like top priority. Because it does, right? Like the more income, the more money you have, the more assets you're managing, the more you need to think about those things. Now let's go on to the fourth thing here. Talking of security, there was a data breach on an e-commerce platform, which was called eGlobal. And on this platform, Ledger was a partner for Globally, not eGlobal, Globally. And here's the thing. Even though this e-commerce platform works with so many different companies out there, some of the largest retailers like Adidas, Victoria's Secret, Marc Jacobs, the data breach had zero effect on the Ledger users. Why? Because it's a hardware wallet. Why? Because each individual user has their own private keys. But here's the thing. If there was a data breach on Kraken and you had a Kraken account, you're not protected. That's the difference. So these things can happen. It's not common, but it can happen. And that's why we reinforce the importance of having a ledger or something of that nature. Now, the last bit of news here that I wanted to mention was this. Now, even though we have different forms of traders, we have smart money traders, right? More like institutionalized traders. We have in Powerhouse community, or just in general, we have people who are retail traders, people who trade support and resistance, people who trade counter trend trades, people who are pro trend traders. We have reversal traders on J7 strategy. There's so many different ways to go about it, and none of them are right or wrong. Some of them are more profitable than others, but different risks and rewards. But the idea is everybody has their own niche that works for them. Here's the thing. Indicators are used by many different traders, but also many different investors for people who invest in equities, which are stocks. The death cross is a term which in the retail trading community, a lot of people are aware of. And this is what happened with Bitcoin very, very recently. So I'm going to go over here and show you guys real quickly what it is I'm referring to. Now, what is a death cross? A death cross is where the 50-day EMA crosses below the 200-day EMA. Let me break this down. The EMA, guys, is a volume indicator. It's one of the most used ones out there. It stands for exponential moving average. So the 50-day EMA means it calculates Bitcoin's past 50 days worth of price movement and it averages it out in a trend line. The 200-day EMA does the same thing, but for 200 days. Now, I'm not going to ask you guys because I know there's a slight lag in the chat, but think to yourself, which EMA line holds more significance? The 200-day or the 50-day? Just think for yourself. And if you want, you can put it in the chat. Which EMA line holds more significance? The 200-day or the 50-day EMA? Now you have your answer. Consider this. When we're looking at the markets as traders, which time frame holds more significance when it comes to trend? The daily time frame or the 1 hour time frame? Now that I've switched the question, you know what the answer is for my first question. The daily time frame will always hold more significance than a 1 hour time frame because it's a day's worth of volume, and the 1 hour's worth of volume that would have to be 1 hour times 24 to equal the same amount of volume as the daily. The 200-day EMA line holds more significance than the 50-day EMA line because it's a longer period of time. It's just like when you're investing in stocks, guys. How many of you have heard of QQQ? Patrick Kenny talks about it. It's an index for tech, fast-growing stocks. Well, QQQ has an average return of around about 50 to 20%. I think it's 18 to 20% on a year-to-year basis, guys. So which one is more significant? Is it a QQQ where like it's done that percentage for X amount of years, like 10 years, 15 years? Or is it something else that's done a percentage for 3 years? Well, it's obviously going to be the longer duration, the longer term. And so looking at this, guys, the death cross, the 50-day EMA line, the orange line, as you can see, is this is 50 days of orange, compared to the blue line, which is the 200-day, it just crossed below. Now, that is an indication for what? For bearish movement. As we can see, guys, every time the 50-day EMA line has gone above the 200-day EMA line, that's what's called, I believe, a golden cross. What's happened to the market? It's appreciated. Bitcoin's gone up. Every time the 50 days above, and then as soon as the 50-day comes below, Bitcoin falls down. So in terms of what could we be looking at here, and by the way, this is consistent, like just, this isn't like opinion perspective, it's very evidential. When you look at the charts, right, you can see this. Every time that cross occurs, you see the market change trend. So now when we're looking at things, where can we see Bitcoin coming down to? We can see it coming down to this area in this 77. If it drops below this 70, 75, 77 mark, well, then we can drop into these areas down here, which is really the mid 60s. So that was something technical I wanted to mention to you because most of us haven't heard of these terms or we don't consider these terms. But on a longer time frame perspective, on a when you zoom out, when in doubt, zoom out, right? Don't get caught in the 1 to 3 minute time frames when it comes to investing. This is what you need to consider. Okay, so family, that is what I had for you. We're at the halfway point. I hope you got some game there. I hope some of that made sense. And, even though you might think, like fundamentals, is it that important? Like, should I really know about certain things? 100%. Because I want you to get familiar with this terminology. Because as an investor, from a traditional aspect, it's important. But also as a trader, working with more decentralized currencies and other equities is also important to your knowledge as well. So put some tens in the chat, and I'm going to give it over to my boy Gil. Put some tens in the chat for me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Continue putting tens in the chat. I know we have a small lag, but there's a lot of amazing game that obviously we have at the beginning of every single session. Shout out to John being willing to put in the back end work, right? Studying what's going on with the markets and looking at really a lot of cool things. I think definitely, I think with the whole Solana phone is pretty cool. Obviously, I saw the phone, in person for the first time actually with John Luke. So that was a really cool thing. And really just knowing that there's a lot of advances going on and a lot of things going on as well in the market. So what I'm going to be doing for the rest of the, I would say for like 10-15 is I'm going to be going through some chart work. Now, what I want to do as well is if you guys have any questions about anything when it comes to crypto, something that we want to start maybe adding a little bit more, but today we want to definitely do that. Go ahead and start sending them in the chat now. In the next 10 minutes, I'll probably answer some of them. If John wants to chime in, he definitely can for some of those questions that we have as well. So if you're on today's session, you're watching this and you have questions, type it in the little chat that we have here on YouTube, and let us know exactly what are some things that maybe you're questioning or you have questions on or you're looking into, or stuff like that. All right. So we're saying that, what I really want to go with when it comes to the technicals is one thing that I always start with is the market cap, total market cap. Now, this is a chart that I talk about every single week that we have these sessions. This is the total market cap that we like to see. Now, we've been talking about this area for a while, that it rejected from. And one thing I've been talking about for the last couple of weeks, really like on the daily, is I've been wanting to see an actual break of structure. And one thing I can see right now is that it actually has not created an official break of structure because there hasn't been a candle that's open and closed above this area. I know John Luke went through some technicals and showed the EMA, which I think is a great perspective as well. And I can definitely see that as well. So really what I want to see, and I like to start with the total because that dictates the whole market, right? Is to see what it's going to do in this first quarter. Now, if crypto breaks below here, I definitely believe it's going to go lower, right? Like maybe to these areas right here before it wants to go higher, or maybe it can keep going. One thing about crypto in the markets, we can't know 100%. We got to see what the charts are showing us before we have our opinion, right? Now, the next thing I can see happening is if this market starts to break above and create higher highs, this will probably also break above that EMA area that John Luke is showing. That means we'll be looking for an upside in the market. Now, to also keep in mind, when this starts to happen, the first movers will be Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin is the first mover of the market, right? So same thing is going to happen here. If we start to see a break of structure above, that's going to be really good when it comes to other assets and other altcoins that we always look for. Now, if this breaks below this area down here, below 80,000, I personally do like the areas that John Luke was showing as well. So right now, I personally believe we're in a very patient time because you have to be aware of where it's priced. So am I saying this is not a good time to buy? Not necessarily. Am I saying this is a good time to sell? Not necessarily. What I'm saying is that there hasn't been confirmation yet. So you want to make sure that you're patient in these times and you're starting to see and look for valid confirmations rather than just having an opinion in the market. Okay. Now, is there a lot of institution adoption? Yes. But it's not always necessarily going to be transitioning to price. All right. So that's what I'm looking at with crypto when it comes to everything like that. With that, now, one thing I also want to start kind of looking at is a little bit of the stock market. As we can see, indices as a whole, stock market is kind of like really at all-time highs at this point. That's something to really look at. And one thing with a couple of the assets that I've been talking about in crypto and asset sessions, one of them that I've been talking about that I actually am going to be, it's actually going to be one of my first stock investments because I was very deep in crypto my whole career in the last like 4 years, right? 5 years in the markets, right? So now I'm actually going to be starting into more stocks. And one of the first ones I'm going to be looking to purchase is actually going to be Netflix. There's a lot of reasons for that, right? A lot of reasons for why I choose Netflix. But one of the biggest reasons is that they're literally the #1 platform, but they're also going to be the #1 live streaming platform. And they're looking to be buying Warner Brothers. So that's a big green flag. They also just streamed the NFL games from Christmas. I can see a lot more NFL games being streamed in 2026 for the next season. They probably will start streaming even for basketball. I know they're streaming now on Amazon. They're streaming already, which is actually partnerships with Paramount, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But I really like Netflix, to be honest. And this is the first area that I like that it's already at. Now, if this doesn't stick, I do like the $70 zone. Now, there's a lot of reasons for that. Number one is that Netflix is actually down around 50% or 30%, and here will be around 50%. So I do like this area for maybe first purchases. And if it doesn't hold, like I said, I do like a 50% retracement, and their numbers look really good. If you do not know how to look at numbers, again, we might have another session for that. But I did want to show you guys a little bit on how to look at the numbers when it comes to stocks as well. And I might go a little bit back as well with crypto, with altcoins. So I'm going to have like a little mix now, like a little bit of stocks, a little bit of crypto, vice versa. That's why today in these sessions are crypto and assets, right? Crypto and stocks, crypto and different assets. Even the Solana phone. The Solana phone, in my opinion, is an asset. Why? Because there's airdrops. There's literally money being made. I think the last phone that they had, I think people made way more than what the phone was even worth. I think they had one of the meme coins on airdrops that hit crazy for Solana. So just perspective like that is very key. And that's our objective here on these calls as well. So if you go to Yahoo Finance, you can look up Netflix. Okay. And this is kind of like the back end when it comes to the numbers. It's kind of like in crypto, we have the tokenomics. This is more like the finances side. Now, this strategy that we use is from one of our educators on our platform within the platform that we have partnered here within Powerhouse. And he talks about a couple things, right? So the first thing he kind of really wants to look at, okay, is the income statement, right? And he wants to see the total revenue, right? He wants to see the total revenue, and he wants to see if it's growing overall and growing recently. As you can see, Netflix is growing overall, right? From 2021, it's been climbing up, and recently it's also been climbing up, which is a really good sign. So that's number one, check. Okay. The next thing you kind of want to look at is looking at more of like the balance sheet or the cash flow. Is one thing I like to see is also assets, right? So you can see that they have more money literally in assets, which obviously, you know, they're going to be buying Warner Brothers. So they have that as well. And that's growing. And then you're going to go see a cash flow. Now in cash flow, we're going to see a couple things. Number one is you want to see whether cash flow has ended every single year, and if it's growing recently and growing overall. And as you can see, it is growing overall and also recently. And then the last thing is the free cash flow. And you can see the same thing. So this is what we call a A-rated stock. Okay. Netflix is an A-rated stock, and it's retraced around 30%. That's why I personally really like Netflix a lot. And I'm really looking very bullish for this asset. So that's one of the cryptos that I'm personally looking at. Again, I'm not going to go too crazy with all of them today. Like I said, we're going to have a good structure. You know, I'm very excited because myself and Jean-Luc have a very good idea on what we want to do in 2026 with crypto and assets. And one thing that we want to do is to maximize these calls, right? So just letting y'all know, we have something very special coming for these sessions every single Saturday that now we're going to be streaming on YouTube. So just stay posted on that. But another one that I personally am really looking into as well is Netflix. Netflix, something that I personally like as well. You know, Mike Sotero on our educational platform here in Powerhouse has been talking about Nike. Nike is really good, obviously. And if you guys don't know, my family has been Nike repped for years. My wife used to work at Nike. And then now my wife's sister works at Nike. So we got Nike in the blood at this point. And one thing that we like to see is that there's actually a new CEO hire that just happened. Now, this new CEO hire is not just any CEO. He was the previous CEO of Netflix. Okay, so that is a good thing because when he was a CEO, the stock also saw bullishness. Okay, so that's something that I just like to see. It's not something that like this dictates my investment, but that's a really good sign. Another thing, as we can see the finances, and this will be the second stock, and then we'll go into the Q&A. So keep asking questions in the chat, and I'll go through them myself. And if John wants to chime in with those as well, we can. But when it comes to the finances with Nike, as you can see here, go into the financials. Delete this right here. Okay. You can see that total revenue, okay, has been kind of growing overall. We had a little dip. And it is not growing recently, right? So far, more like a B option. Okay. Now, balance sheet, you can see that their assets have grown a little bit. Okay. Not really recently. So again, still kind of more like a B. And then cash flow, you can see that their end cash flow has been kind of inconsistent. And their also free cash flow is eh. So I would say it's more of like a C-rated stock, to be honest. But what I really like about this, even though it's a C-rated stock when it comes to their numbers, is that it's down over 50%. So when the stock is down over 50% and it has some sort of growth or some sort of rating, I personally like it. And also is because I shop at Nike. That's something I like about stocks, is that if you shop at somewhere and you like it, that means you're not the only one, right? So I personally can see Nike, and I like the structure it's creating, but Nike breaking above and continuing on the upside. So I personally like Nike really around anywhere here for the next year or couple years to come as well, right? I do see Nike creating all-time highs. So we'll see what happens in the next coming years. But I'm very excited with one of things like that. So, I hope you guys got some game with that. Like I said, I wanted to go through some stuff with that, with everything here. Now, what I want to do, because of time, I do want to go through some of the Q&A questions. So we got some questions in the chat. So if you're, for the recording purposes, I'm going to put them on here as well. But I remember there was one question from the very beginning. Okay. We got MCZ_11 said, you think the bottom is in, and when do you think the top will be in? Will be the next Fed chair be the top or a bearish event? Okay, that's a really good question. Number one is that nobody will know when the top and bottom is. So let's put it top and bottom. I'm gonna make this bigger, right? When is going to be the top and bottom, right? We can never know that. People might assume that, but one thing that we need to look for is structure. Okay. So I really want to make sure that I'm looking at structure before looking at opinion. Now, Gil, what does that mean? That means is that right now, as we can see, looking at structure, the market is creating higher highs and higher lows. Okay. Specifically with Bitcoin. Everything follows Bitcoin. Okay. Now, one thing like I said, is if this breaks below here, honestly, this could look more like this. Okay, not to zero, right? That's a little dramatic. More like this. Okay, maybe here. Okay, maybe something like that. All right. Now, if this doesn't break below and continues higher, so it breaks this structure that we were seeing, I don't think the bottom is in. I think this will continue. But I also believe that Bitcoin specifically has one more run, has one more stretch before I think it's actually going to have a retracement. Okay. Now, I also want to let y'all know to keep in mind that this market is different. Okay. This market is with institutions. So I personally do not believe that if this happens, that we will see this like we usually do. I don't think so. I think we'll see retracement, but I personally think we'll see it more consistent, kind of like the stock market, because again, there's now ETFs, institutions, where if that happens, everybody's liquidated and it's kind of game over. So I personally believe if this happens, we might see a retracement like this and then continue, right? Something like that. So we'll see, but it is a new season that we're living in. So when it comes to the top guys, like I said, I mean, is the top in? I don't know. If this breaks below, I think this could have been the top until the next cycle. But we got to be very patient with that as well. Now, I do know that we do have the Fed chair as well being announced this year. I think it's going to be, it might be a buy the rumor, sell the news event. So that means that might be a catalyst to bring Bitcoin up. And then when that happens, it could bring retracement. Okay, because it's always buy the rumor, sell the news, mostly if it's bullish for the market. So if it's a good thing for the market, you want to buy the rumor, you want to sell the news. Okay, so that's very important to understand. I know somebody else asked, Laura asked, placing trades, crypto 2 or not. Yeah, so one thing that you can do if you're trading crypto, we use Jupiter. Okay, Jupiter is a platform, is a preps platforms, kind of like futures in crypto that you can use. Now, the thing about this is that there is no like demo trading, right? There's no demo trading on these because it's all like live money, because it's all decentralized. So it's all there. But there's brokers out there. I don't really recommend brokers, to be honest. I don't like brokers for crypto because they're very inconsistent and their fees are insane and their slippage is insane and their cost is insane. But I definitely like using platforms like this. Now for Jupiter, it's really cool because it's all here. You got the chart, you have this, you can put how much you're paying in, and also you get paid out. For example, this is in Solana network. If you're, trading it with Solana, you're going to get paid out in Solana. So it's a way you can accumulate crypto while you're trading it. Okay. So like I said, if you want to practice trading crypto, obviously it's going to be on the smaller time frame. So if you're trading, for example, Bitcoin, you might be looking like at the 1 hour, the 4 hour, stuff like that. Now, one thing I do want to show y'all for specifically trading crypto, we do have a scanner. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but Mike Shatero, one of our educators on our amazing platform here in Powerhouse, goes through this as well on a weekly basis. And this is a cool scanner that you can use that I've been looking at personally and is really accurate when you follow the rules of this. So if you want to practice this, I highly recommend it. I would definitely, hop on one of Mike Shatero's sessions where he talks about this. And we also have Charlie the Soul that talks about this, and he's the one that really made the scanner as well. So really looking into this is very key. Understanding the rules is very simple. For example, this EMA line is very key, and we either want to see a blue arrow or a red arrow. But once we see an arrow, we don't want to just execute. We want to wait for like a break of structure, right? So when it comes to trading, this would have not been an entry because we would have to had seen a break of structure and it didn't give it to us. So what we need to look for example, for Ethereum is another above EMA, another blue arrow, but we also want to see a break of structure here before we can enter. Okay. So same thing goes with Bitcoin, right? There's a lot of arrows. So we just need to be patient, right? Same thing goes in the opposite way. We saw a red arrow. We need to see a break of structure before we can actually enter. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Do you recommend using indicators for stocks the same way as crypto? Yeah, I mean, if you use indicators, you can. I personally don't really use indicators, to be honest, other than like EMA or like volume, I guess. But yes, any indicator can be used in anything. So it just depends on the time frame and how you're using it and stuff like that. So yeah, you can definitely do that. Vicente, what's up, bro? Would you recommend buying ETH and SOL right now if it's your first time buying those assets, or wait for a lower zone? Looking to buy Solana below 120, just DCA every time. Okay, yeah, so that's a good question. So when it comes to something like Solana, all right, Solana's here. And your question is it good to buy now? Now, I have a couple of things with that. Number one is I do have a DCA zone. I call it the portfolio DCA zone. Some of these are sent out in our app as well in our community, but this is actually in my DCA zone. Okay. So what I think it's a good purchase? Yes, I personally do. But one thing I've learned is to not have your full investment invested in one area. Okay, what does that mean? That means if I'm going to be buying Solana here, I'm not going to put all my money here. I'm going to put partial here and then just accumulate. If this goes lower, I might be patient. And if this goes lower, same thing goes with everything else. I want to see below $100, just to be honest. Okay. I think if it comes here, it's going to come lower. Like if it doesn't stick here, it's not sticking. Does that make sense? So if this comes here, it's not going to stick and do this, in my opinion. I think if it comes back here and breaks, it's going to do this. And maybe we can see something here before we want to go higher. Okay. So I just want to be patient. But if I'm DCAing, I do like this zone. Anything under 140 is my DCA zone. Personally, I like it because if I get Solana 140, I'm not really worried, to be honest, because even if it does this, that's fine. I'm going to be patient after this. I'm not buying anymore. The other thing as well, if it comes out of my DCA zone, so if it comes below here, I'm not buying. I'm going to wait and see what's happening and potentially buy in my lower zone as well. Okay. So that's kind of what I would look. I have different DCA zones, but as long as it's in my DCA zone, which it is right now, I'm going to be looking to add to my portfolio if I'm looking to add crypto or that asset specifically. All right. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. Yeah, definitely CoinHash is more for scalping. I mean, to be honest, I think scalping crypto in general is better. Swing trading is tough, but it's cool if you use preps and you have a bigger asset, stuff like that. Will we also become educators? We'll see. I'm not, one here. We're just here to serve. I'm still here, student of the game. To be honest, here within Powerhouse, I'm learning every day. So is John Luke. But if it's in God's favor, then it's in God's favor, bro. But we're here to serve the squad. So I'm still a student of the game, learning from Mike Sotero, to be honest. But we'll see. I like this question. Yeah, for sure. Amazing. So if you don't guys have any more questions, let me know in the chat. Now, to end today's session, I want to give you guys some altcoins when it comes to crypto that I'm personally looking at. One of them is Chainlink. I really like Chainlink. I've been talking about this for a minute. But honestly, as long as it's in this zone, fam, I like Chainlink. If this doesn't stick, we're going to go lower. Okay. And if we go lower, I mean, that's going to be a crazy steal. But we'll come here. All right, which will be wild. Chainlink is, not to tell you guys, exactly my portfolio, whatever, but Chainlink is my number one holding, and I think I'm going to keep it that way, to be honest. They're just partnered with so many things. They're a part of every single ecosystem. It's literally insane. So I like Chainlink a lot, to be honest. We'll see what happens. And, who knows? I feel like they might want to take out this liquidity. So a lot of people have been buying here. They might want to take people out before they want to continue, which is fine with me because I'll be buying more here, probably even heavier than what I'm doing here, to be honest. Like if it comes here, I'm like heavy. Like this is the only asset I'll be adding to my portfolio, to be honest. But another one that I think is a big sleeper that people don't talk about is Aave. I really like this asset, fam. Aave is a DeFi protocol. I'm not going to go too much into it or go in depth. If all of this is too much for you, I'm going to give you guys what to watch on our platform. And if you're not part of our community, we do have a link in the comments on this session that you can fill out a form and get access to our free channel, which is a glimpse of what we have. And if you want to know more about our community, then you're more than welcome to see if you qualify for that as well, right? But when it comes to Aave, guys, this is a great DeFi protocol. They're actually becoming more like a bank. They're getting licenses for it. They're going to be providing an APY of up to 9%, which is crazy. And like I think 500,000 in insurance, which is wild, which is way more than banks. So I'm very interested to see how that's going to go. But I like Aave in this zone, really anything below 170. And if this wants to break, it's going to come back to 105, which will be insane. Okay. But I like Aave. I can see Aave easily going to 650 when the bull run starts to hit. So I really like this. I think it's a big sleeper. And another one is actually Ondo that I think is a big sleeper. Right now it's actually at a very low zone, like lowest has been. I think the only area I can go to next is here, which would be amazing. Okay, so anything under 30 cents would be wild. And we can see that happening. And if this goes to all-time highs, I mean, that's a really good move, right? You got around like 500% increase. Ondo is also partnered with Chainlink with a lot of different things. Chainlink does like data, and Ondo is more like real world assets. So it gives institutions, big players, people outside of the US an opportunity to be a part of like the stock market and stuff like that, right? So those are a couple. I know we went through some good information. I don't want to make this session more than an hour, so we're actually hitting the hour now with the beginning, timer and everything. But I hope you guys have a good day. I don't know if there's any questions here. Definitely, like I said, if you're not a part of our community, we're partnered with an educational platform. If you're a part of our community, guys, and a lot of the things went over your head, I recommend to go to courses, watch Mike Sotero, and go through the courses, guys. Take advantage of the information you have access of here in Powerhouse. I'm very excited for what's to come as well. But go ahead and learn about tokenomics, research. If you want to learn more about the chart work, watch this one. And also remember, stay active on the live sessions. This is what we have access with our amazing community in Powerhouse. Every single week, we have access to live education when it comes to the stock side, the crypto side, and also the trading side. And you're following our YouTube channel. We are now live streaming on YouTube within our community. So we have sessions throughout the whole week. And we're going to be continuing to add and pour value for free because we're on YouTube. Because we want to make sure that people are getting more exposed to this. So if you want more of a one-on-one mentorship, if you want more of a advanced mentorship within our community, like I said, check in the comments here, on the comment section, and we have it here to get you access to the free side, but as well as the paid side. And if that's something that you're looking for or need to excel in your trading crypto and stocks. All right, fam. So with saying that, I appreciate y'all for being on today's call. I'm excited for what's to come here in Powerhouse. And like we always say here, the best is yet to come. Peace.